like you in almost every way. I don't like girls.
Stop! You owe me. Tell me. I'll pay in second. Will you lead the Seven Kingdoms to the best of your abilities?
Why do you think I came all this way?
Why do modern shows struggle to land the plane? Two beloved shows ended this past year, and both of them did so in deeply unsatisfying ways. Both The Boys and Stranger Things were season 1 hits, but by the time they finished, the fan base had completely turned on the creative teams. Before these two shows crashed and burned, another show several years before marked the start of tragic modern endings, Game of Thrones. We've been living in the shadow of that awful ending for nearly 7 years now.
So what happened to make this series of series collapses possible? Today, we offer an explanation for what's going on with the modern writer's room, as well as why the cultural zeitgeist is rejecting them in a paradox we call the justice problem. The justice problem is when so-called heroes deliver medieval and barbaric justice to the big villain, instead of what they have traditionally done, which is to offer grace.
Enough blood has been spilled on his account.
This shift has left us feeling unsatisfied and disoriented. All three of these groundbreaking series have villains with brutal deaths at the hands of the heroes. Homelander has his powers ripped from him and begs for his life before helplessly having his skull cracked open with a crowbar by Butcher. Vecna is savagely beheaded after 11 swings. Yeah, that's right, 11 swings. And Daenerys, after the shocking turn of being the show's real villain, is betrayed and assassinated by her incestuous lover, Jon Snow.
I think her villain arc made complete sense. She was always headed that way. But I can see how some parts might be unsatisfying.
These endings are not doing something overtly morally wrong. You reap what you sow, right? But the goal of entertainment is to hold your attention. When artists do this in a way that has no payoff, you lose trust. Because of this, you're unlikely to return to this franchise or its creatives. The formula for holding attention has been the same since the ancient campfire, the Colosseum, or the modern cinema, and it's been to exceed your expectations, especially in the finale.
Most of the chatter online, especially regarding Vecna and Homelander, was from fans saying they were glad the evil villains finally got what they deserved. After all, justice was served. But what if this passion for justice is actually what's contributing to this collectively unsatisfying feeling? How could justice possibly be unsatisfying?
I want my father back, you son of a...
The reason for the feeling is because we're missing a step. One J.R.R. Tolkien calls the Great Eucatastrophe. His antidote to the justice problem is grace. In 1947, his essay on fairy stories, Tolkien argued, "I would venture to assert that all complete fairy stories must have a happy ending. At least I would say that tragedy is the true form of drama, its highest function. But the opposite is true of fairy story. Since we do not appear to possess a word that expresses this opposite, I will call it eucatastrophe. The eucatastrophic tale is the true form of fairy tale and its highest function." This phrase, the Great Eucatastrophe, stems from the Greek meaning good sudden turn, which is a joyful turn of events from seemingly inevitable doom. This fortune comes in the form of grace instead of by the hero's own means.
In Lord of the Rings, Gollum falls into Mount Doom and destroys the ring. Frodo couldn't do it himself, yet there is a miraculous and unexpected positive turn of the ring being destroyed unintentionally. There is something unsatisfying about heroes destroying villains through brute force. It's better to have the hero overcome not in his own might, but in some sort of divine favor. This exposes how weak the villain is, spiritually and philosophically, which is ultimately more important than any physical victory. A higher power, whether it be God, fate, or nature, delivers or aids in this justice. This pattern of grace the hero receives is something he can show he's mastered by giving it to someone else. In this case, to the very worst person possible. Many modern stories, especially those here, have scenes where our heroes experience great strokes of luck or fortune. So why is that not something they're willing to become for others?
Grace is an expression of love. Basically, it is our ability to care for and humanize others, that we are willing to give them second chances. We love Homelander because he is so unloved by every character around him. Only we, the audience, can see him for who he truly is. Another broken man. In those rare moments where even the smallest bit of humanity is shown, we are reminded that anyone is capable of being loved. The collective hate he receives from the other characters and from the writers pushes empathetic people to find his redeeming qualities, to care for someone others won't.
Many of you might be saying, but Ryan and Rich, Vecna was given grace when Will tried to talk him out of his plan, but Vecna rejected him. We'd say timing is everything, because at this moment, Vecna can still fight. He can still win. The real time for grace for Vecna would have been when he was bleeding out on that rock. It's great to look at Vecna and see Henry, but can you do it when you have all the power? Grace is not just sparing the villain from death, it is inviting them into something new. You have to be able to see who they could be, whether it be a son inviting his father to save him, or inviting an adulterous woman to go and sin no more. Grace is what actually changes hearts. And if we, as the hero, don't want to change people for the better, to believe in them, what does that say about us? Maybe that's why we've turned into a culture that loves punishing people.
Antagonists are not the only characters changed by grace. Protagonists are as well. The problem is that your hero, or whoever executes the justice instead of grace, is now also subject to a significant change in character because of their actions. This is why everyone flipped out when Daenerys slaughtered the better part of King's Landing. She chose justice on her terms, and this fundamentally changed her character. She didn't do it out of a desire to liberate and help. She did it to punish people she didn't like. Everyone is responsible for their choices, and that starts with looking at yourself. The purpose of humanizing our enemies isn't to cast out their evil, it's to cast out our own, the hate we harbor. Daenerys couldn't do that. Grace is most powerful when it's given to those who deserve it the least. Instead, she chose fire for an entire city. Compare this to Luke Skywalker, who only becomes a Jedi after showing Vader grace.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
So be it, Jedi.
Now hey, maybe Wynonna was always the quirky and cracked mother bear that was ready to behead her son's not rapist? Or maybe that means something for each of our characters as they cheer this on. Maybe Jon didn't have any other way, or maybe he was a relentlessly capable and innovative character in every other season who always found a way out of no-win solutions. Well, most of them. Because these characters have each done the deed, as it were, no, not those ones. We have to ask ourselves, who are they now? Are these characters still someone to idolize? Or has this change in expectation and character recontextualized them to the point of confusion? And so, what is the point of the show now? Why don't any of these shows have the smallest modicum of hope, and why does this mean these hopeless people want to shove the idea down our throats that life will always suck, and we should all wallow in that bland, quasi-pragmatic knowledge together, rather than daring to dream of something genuinely good? Let's let ourselves taste just a little bit of hope. That unrelenting expectation of good, of happy endings, so that we can strive for and believe in them for characters other than cartoons and rejects.
These endings are possible. To help us understand how Game of Thrones, Stranger Things, and The Boys should have ended, let's take a look at a character who experienced both justice and grace. Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin. At the end of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1, Tobey has Norman beat. And in this moment, Norman begs him for mercy. Tobey backs off, and you get the impression that he's going to give him grace. But instead of receiving it, Norman tries to weaponize Tobey's compassion and backstabs him with his glider. The weapon Norman meant for Peter quickly becomes his own undoing.
Notice two things here. Upon Norman's rejection of grace, justice is instantly delivered. And two, Tobey was not the one to deliver this justice. This is a satisfying ending. Norman is getting what he deserves, but it's not like Homelander or Vecna or Daenerys. The hero isn't brutally killing the villain by his own hands. and instead, a sudden turn in good fortune graces the hero. But this outcome will still haunt Peter for the next 2 films, and this subtly hints at a better outcome.
Fast forwarding to Spider-Man No Way Home, this opportunity presents itself again. Except this time our hero is Tom Holland. After the murder of Aunt May at the hands of the Goblin, Tom goes in for the killing blow. He's angry, he wants justice. Justice by his own terms. Notice that he's holding the glider, the same weapon that killed Norman before. It won't be fate that delivers the final blow. No, it will be our hero. But before Tom can deliver this justice, Toby steps in.
This look in his eyes communicates to all of us in the audience that this is not the right way. Hacking away at Norman with an axe or splitting his skull open would probably feel great right now. Instead, Toby knows what it's like to feel responsible for someone's death and the weight that carries. He knows that it can change you. Because he has been taught the pattern of grace, he passes it to Tom, and in turn prevents Tom from going down a dark path.
Norman once again rejects the grace. He backstabs Toby, this time successfully. Not only does this make us love Toby more, it also symbolically reveals Toby taking Norman's place. This calls back to a style of self-sacrifice revolutionized by Jesus. Toby bears Norman's transgressions. And what happens next? Grace works. Grace wins. Norman is redeemed because no one is too far from home.
And what greater hope can there be than redemption? If the Normans and Zukos and Anakins can be redeemed, how much more can we be? And so, grace is a way to clean out our own hatred. And it's also the best way to remind us that we're never too far gone. All of us can find our way back from the very worst of ourselves.
Spider-Man 1's ending was great, but the graceful ending of No Way Home shows us something better. It exceeds our expectations. It's satisfying.
Daenerys, Homelander, and Vecna weren't worth saving. At least not from the worldview of our current political and material culture. But maybe grace would have delivered a more satisfying ending. But that's just what we see.
What do you see? How would you have ended these 3 shows? Is a villain ever too far gone? Did these cultural icons deserve their brutal deaths? Let us know in the comments.